Well, good morning, everyone. Mike Staten, soybean educator with Michigan State University Extension, and I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the Field Crops Virtual Breakfast. With us this morning, we've got an excellent presentation on nematode management with Dr. Marisol Quintanilla. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Marisol Quintanilla.
Good morning, everybody. This is Marisol. I'm the nematologist at Michigan State University, and I'm going to go straight to what I have to say because I have only a couple minutes. So I'm going to talk about nematode management. So what is a nematode? Nematode is a microscopic roundworm. Well, there's many different kinds of nematodes. In this case, we're going to talk about nematodes that parasitize plants. Some nematodes can be significant yield robbers. For example, in soybeans, soybean cyst nematode is the number one pathogen, the number one yield robber of soybean. And there's nematodes that take some yield from corn and from pretty much every crop you grow. Nematodes, to be a herbivore, they will have a stylet, so you will see like a needle in their mouth. And there's many bacteriivore nematodes and beneficial nematodes that do not feed on plants that we consider beneficial. Quickly, we're going to talk about a corn survey. We surveyed the state for corn nematodes and the different regions of Michigan. And the nematodes that we found are stunt, root lesion, corn needle, and a couple of others. Stunt being the one that is most common in corn and that we believe is taking the most yield cut from corn. Corn needle nematode is a very serious nematode. Fortunately, it's not wide. We didn't find it widely, only in a few farms, but where it is found, it causes large damage. And you'll see, like you see in the slide, the roots will be abnormal and stubby. You will see the corn roots will kind of be swollen at the end and short and stubby, and the corn will be stunted. Root lesion nematode is also a serious nematode. And by the way, root lesion nematode takes a significant yield cut of soybeans. It's an important nematode in soybeans too. It's just that soybean cyst nematode is so much more serious that we pretty much focus only on soybean cyst nematode with soybeans. But root lesion nematode is taking a consistent yield cut. So for nematode management, in corn, crop rotations, cover crops that are non-host to the nematode that's giving you problem, weed control, soil health, soil sampling in order to prevent for corn. Soybean cyst nematode is a very important nematode in soybeans. If you can see in the screen right there, if there's an arrow showing the SCN female, it's a little white dot there in the root. You can see a very small white dot compared to a nitrogen nodule. This white dot is about 10 times smaller than a nitrogen nodule. You can see here an enlarged picture of the nematode inside the root feeding. This large round ball is a female nematode filled with eggs. It's a cyst. Her body is filled with young, pregnant, you could say. So SCN is considered the most damaging soybean pathogen in North America. So the soybean cyst nematode is a very important yield robber in soybeans. To get straight to what the main message of today, for soybean cyst nematode, the best management practices are, first of all, to collect soil samples and determine what your situation is. We want to know whether you have soybean cyst nematode or not. Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee covers the cost of your soil samples. And they even can provide you a bag that is with the form labeled. You need to have the right form filled out in order to be covered. And the nematode samples are sent to Michigan State University Diagnostic Lab. You want to grow a non-host in rotation with soybeans. Good examples of non-hosts are corn, wheat, small grains, and pretty much every crop that is not legumes like beans and soy, most crops. Grow resistant soybean varieties. There are many varieties that are resistant. The problem is that some nematodes are developing resistance to the resistance. In other words, they're breaking the resistance. If it's possible, rotate sources of resistance. The most commonly commercially available sources of resistance is Peking and P8788. And we have done research on this at our lab in Michigan State. And rotating sources of resistance does give you a yield advantage and does reduce the number of nematodes that are resistant to what you're planting. So you can see here the symptoms of soybean cyst nematode damage: patchy fields, kind of light colored beans. Here you can see the life cycle. Just to show you here, let's start with the egg. The eggs come out of the cyst. Then those eggs hatch and become juveniles and other worms. Worms go inside the root. They develop a feeding site. They communicate with the plant. And the plant makes it a special home, special cells that just feed the nematode. So that nematode never needs to move in its life. And the female especially becomes large, obese, just eats and produces babies. She becomes so large that she breaks out of the root and dies then as a cyst full of eggs. So you can see here a picture with the SCN females. Those are the little white dots that look like white grains of sand on the roots. Soybean cyst nematode can reproduce very quickly. If at the beginning of the season, when you plant, you start with 100 eggs, you will end up at the end of the season with roughly 20,000 eggs. Very fast reproduction. That's why it's important to manage this, because you can end up with astronomical numbers if you don't manage this. Soybean cyst nematode can survive in the soil for many years, the cyst, even up to 40 years. But 10 years is a very common number for them to survive in the absence of a host. So let's say you have soybeans planted and you don't plant soybeans for 10 years. You just plant straight corn. After 10 years and you plant soybeans, there'll still be some soybean cyst nematode. So getting rid of this nematode is virtually an impossibility. So what we can do very successfully is manage it so that you can still get profitable yields. Soybean cyst nematode started as a small spot in the United States. Soybean cyst nematode is not from the United States. It came from China and Asia in general. And now it's distributed throughout the United States, mainly thanks to us, because we're moving it around. It can't fly, it is not very mobile, and its whole lifetime it only moves a couple feet. So with us, with machinery, with plant material, whatever, it's moving around with us. In Michigan, it's pretty much in the lower half of the lower peninsula, the southern half. Soybean cyst nematode is developing resistance to the resistance. And this is important to know. In Michigan, 94% of samples that are submitted to the diagnostic lab, 94% of samples, those nematodes are able to breed in the resistant varieties that growers are commonly planted, which is P8788, source of resistance. That means that the source of resistance that's being planted is no longer being so effective in Michigan. So we need to find other methods of management, like rotating sources of resistance and also rotating with non-hosts. We are doing several trials evaluating rotations, and these results here show that when you rotate P8788, which I abbreviated as PI, and Peking, abbreviated as Peking, you get the highest yield. You get the highest yield if you rotate different sources of resistance. When you plant the susceptible, you get a significant yield reduction. Definitely soybean cyst nematode takes a yield cut from you, very big yield cut. And if you plant the same source of resistance consistently every year, every time you plant soybeans, you also take a yield cut. Using manure, we found that had a beneficial effect. that chicken manure had a beneficial effect on soybean cyst nematode juveniles. The reduction was significant to the 90% level, and it wasn't an astronomical reduction, but we did get a reduction in the nematodes. So I want to rehash what are the main management strategies. Test your field, know your numbers, rotate resistant sources of resistance. If you are not able to rotate sources of resistance, at least rotate with different varieties, even if it's the same source of resistance. But the best thing you can do is rotate different sources of resistance. Rotate to non-host crops, things such as corn, wheat, any grain, or just about any crop that is not a bean. Beans are just as susceptible as soybeans. And consider using a seed treatment nematicide. Being a seed treatment nematicide, the least important of the different strategies that I mentioned, the one that has the least impact. So submit a sample to MSU Pest ID. You can see I put a link there, and the Michigan checkoff covers the cost. So I want to thank all my sources of funding, Project Green, Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee, Corn Marketing Committee, Michigan Sugar, and all the commodity groups, Fred Warner, the SCN Coalition team, George Bird, and any questions?
Marisol, that was really a good presentation. Thank you very much. Phil Cates asked a couple really good questions. When is the best time to sample or find SCN in a soybean field?
The best time to find SCN in the soybean field is after mid-July. Before that, you're not going to find the cyst on the roots. The best time to soil sample is at harvest time. You will have the highest numbers. So especially if you want to see whether you're past the management threshold. In other words, if your numbers are high enough to be taking important yield cuts from you, you want to take those samples at harvest, because most of those thresholds are developed for sampling around that time.
Thank you, Marisol. There is a second question from Phil. It's, will you be able to see SCN on the roots during the entire growing season? You did answer that. So yeah, really after July.
Yeah, after mid-July. It depends on the year. If it's been a cool year and you plant late, you will see the cyst developing later, because nematodes are a lot like insects. They depend on degree days. They depend on external temperature to develop. So if it's been really cool, you will see those cysts developing much later. If it's been a very hot spring, you will see those cysts developing much earlier. So it depends on the time you plant, and it depends on the temperatures that we've been having.
Thank you. There is another question, and the question is, where did MSU get the oilseed cultivars, Defender and Kernel? These were published, the results were published in the news beat. And Phil, I don't know if you could chime in, if Marisol, if both of you maybe would answer that. Where would someone find Defender and Kernel?
Well, Defender is it's a variety that comes from Germany, and it can only be bought from a seed from Germany. And in the Michigan Sugar has a different variety, which I already forgot the name of it, that has the same result as Defender, and they can give you the source of where they purchased the seed. So there's a couple of oilseed radishes that have the same impact, like Defender, Coroner. There's Control. There's one that's there's several cover crop companies that promote this. Not all of them, actually. Not every cover crop company has all of this straight, because this is confusing. It's very variety specific. It's not enough that is oilseed radish. There needs to be a certain specific varieties. So communicating, if you can send me direct message, and I can actually check on the name of the varieties, because some of these names have escape my mind at this moment. But Michigan Sugar has a good source of that is not Defender, but that has the same impact. And I tested it, and it does reduce sugar beet cyst nematode numbers.
Thank you. I do see that Phil added one more comment on there, that image is another variety that seems to be effective.
That's right. That's right. There's several names, and I was thinking about that one, but it wasn't coming to my mind fast enough. So image, thank you very much, Phil.
Mike, this is Dean. I have gotten Defender from Star of the West up in Bad Axe. I don't know if they're carrying it right now or not, but.
Excellent.
Really good information. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, Dean is the cover crop expert. He knows where to get all these varieties from different companies. So Dean Bass is the guy to contact for cover crops.
Marisol, thank you so much for your presentation. That was really good. For those of you that are struggling with some of the delayed planting issues, crop insurance issues, cover crop issues, all of those things related to the delayed planting, we do have a website. The Field Crops team has put together a delayed planting resources list, and you'll see the links there. Then on the right side of that page is a really important upcoming event. It's an annual event. It's the Michigan Agricultural Innovation Day. This year we're focusing on precision technology that pays, and that's going to be July 26th at University Farms. So July 26th. Thank you for everybody attending. We do have visibility on social media, as you can see. So if those are avenues that you access your information on, we are available there. Again, thanks for participating in today's webinar, and please click on the link at the bottom of the page there. That link is also in the chat box, and what you'll be able to do by clicking on that link is you'll be able to provide some background or feedback, input to us regarding today's presentation.